Okay, so think about it. We're basically swimming in survey data every single day, right? Political polls, product reviews, employee satisfaction scores, you name it. But have you ever stopped and wondered, how do they actually get those numbers? Well, in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on the data we see all the time. I mean, it's a great question, isn't it? You see some shocking headline, some crazy percentage, and it's so easy to just take it as fact. But is it the whole story? Stick with me here, because we're about to decode the hidden stuff behind the numbers and show you what might be missing from the picture. All right, so let's get into how this actually works. When researchers want to figure out what millions of people are thinking, they obviously can't ask every single person. So they have this special toolkit of what are called survey methodologies to get a snapshot of the population. But, and this is the important part, every single tool in that kit has its own pros and cons. And you can really see those trade-offs right here. I mean, look at a personal face-to-face interview. You get great response rates because, it's a lot harder to say no to a person standing right in front of you. But wow, is it expensive? Plus, the interviewer's own personality can kind of nudge the answers. Then you have the total opposite, an online survey. Super cheap, super fast. But the big risk? You might miss whole groups of people who aren't online, and that creates a pretty serious potential bias in your sample. The bottom line is, there's no perfect method. Every choice is a compromise. And speaking of compromises, just look at this number, less than 10%. According to the Pew Research Center, the response rates for telephone surveys, which, by the way, used to be the gold standard, have absolutely tanked. We're talking from over 30% just a couple of decades ago to less than 10% today. So what does that really mean? It means getting an accurate picture of what the public actually thinks is getting a whole lot harder. And that challenge brings us right to the core idea of this whole explainer, survey error. It sounds technical, but it's actually pretty simple. It's just the inevitable gap between what your small sample group says and what the actual truth would be if you could magically ask every single person in the population. You can't avoid it. It's just part of the deal. Okay, but here's where it gets really, really interesting. Not all errors are the same. And understanding the difference between the two main types, well, that's the secret to being able to look at any survey and know what you're really seeing. So let's break them down. So on one side, you've got random sampling error. The best way to think of this is like unavoidable static on a radio. It's just the natural random variation you get from talking to a sample instead of everybody. And you can turn down the static by getting a bigger sample. Simple enough. But on the other side, you have systematic error or bias. This isn't static. This is like someone putting their thumb on the scale, always pushing the results in one direction. It's caused by a flaw in how the survey is designed. And here's the kicker. Making your sample bigger will not fix this. You'll just get a very precise wrong answer. And that systematic error, that's where we humans come in. It's so often tied to our own psychology. These little glitches in how we think and how we answer questions. Let's take a look at a few of the most common human glitches. All right, first up, we have social desirability bias. I think we all get this one. It's that deep, deep-seated need we have to look good, to be seen in a favorable light. So when you ask someone about something that has a socially correct answer, like, do you vote or do you donate to charity, we tend to get the answer that makes us look good, whether it's the whole truth or not. I mean, come on, this is the perfect example, right? Let's be real. We all know we're supposed to floss every single day. So when the dentist looks you in the eye and asks, a lot of us are going to say, yep, even if our floss has been collecting dust for weeks. That is social desirability bias in a nutshell. Okay, next up is sponsorship bias. This one's a little more subtle. It's what happens when we, the respondents, can figure out who's paying for the research. Because once we know that, it gives us a little clue about the answer they might be hoping to hear, and that can totally influence our response, even if we don't realize it. Think about it like this. Imagine you get a survey about how much red meat you eat. Now, would your answer change if you knew it was sponsored by the American Heart Association versus the National Cattlemen's Beef Association? Yeah, probably. For one, you might downplay it. For the other, you might start talking about how much you love a good burger. Same question, different sponsor, and you can get a very different answer. And for our last one, let's talk about acquiescence bias, which has the much better name yay-saying. Basically, it's our tendency as humans to just be, well, agreeable, to nod along. It's like the survey version of that old saying, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. We often just agree with statements because we have a hunch that's what the researcher wants to hear. Oh man, we've all been in this situation. A researcher shows you a brand new product idea, and their eyes are just sparkling with hope. And you say, wow, that's a fantastic idea. but deep down you're thinking, there's no way I would ever actually buy that. That little desire not to crush their spirits can lead to some wildly optimistic and, frankly, really misleading data. So, after all that, you might be thinking, okay, should I just ignore all surveys then? No, not at all. Now that you know about these hidden forces at play, you can do something way better. You can become a kind of data detective, armed with the right questions to figure out what's really going on. So here's your detective checklist. It's pretty simple. First, ask, who was actually in the sample? Does it really represent everybody? And just as critical, who wasn't in the sample? Remember that less than 10% response rate for phone polls? The other 90% who didn't answer might have a totally different opinion. Next, look for the sponsor. Is there an obvious agenda? And finally, just think about the questions themselves. How are they worded? Could they have been designed, even accidentally, to trigger one of those human glitches we just talked about? So I'll just leave you with this. The next time you see a poll in the news or a review score for a product, you won't have to just take the headline at face value. You'll have the tools to be a much more critical thinker when it comes to data. You'll be able to see beyond the numbers. So, what will you question first?